ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the government panel discussion. While we're talking about AI and public sector combining to create smart and high-performance governments, digital and artificial intelligence technologies will likely have a substantial economic and social impact. The public sector is seeking and finding applications to improve services. Cognitive technologies could eventually revolutionize every facet of government operations. This panel discussion will discuss how AI currently operates in the public sector and determine what skills and resources are needed to successfully apply it. While we're looking at application of AI for citizen engagement, improving operational efficiency, and AI strategies for public and legislation, we're talking about using cognitive technologies to redefine public sector work, role of AI and big data to drive success. Will AI eliminate jobs? Robotics and cognitive automation, what life cycle is involved in developing and maintaining an AI system, how important it is to consider data ethics when adopting AI technology, what are the sectors in government that AI will deeply impact, how is AI driving cybersecurity, what are the challenges in IoT and its impact, and what are the interesting use cases driven by AI that helps strengthen detection and response. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I request you all to use the Q&A tab to post your questions during the session. It will be picked and answered by the speakers at the end of the session if time allows. So ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists, first up, we've got Janilyn McLenau, the Policy Lead, Cybersecurity Bureau, Department of Information and Communications Technology, Philippines. Well, a cybersecurity policymaker, digital strategist, project manager, she's most involved in the security of critical infrastructure, government information, environment, and supply chain. She's also the lead contributor to the National Cybersecurity Plan 2022, which was published in May 2017. We also are joined by Mel Migrino, the VP and Group CISO Officer, Meralco Electric Power Distribution Company, Philippines. While Mel leads the information security, cybersecurity, data privacy, and resiliency, she has more than 15 years of experience in information security management, IT security, privacy, business continuity, disaster recovery, IT audit, application development, and project management. We also have Dominique Ligo, the founder board of trustees, member, and treasurer Analytic Association Philippines. Well, data and analytics consultant, entrepreneur, and technologist, he brings to his engagements more than 17 years of experience in data-driven decision-making, data management, and analytics. He's also the lead analyst for the WHO-recognized Global Corona Tracker Initiative against COVID-19. We also have Dr. Shen Yu Lee, the CEO, Global Organization of Smart Cities Director, Taipei, Smart City Project Management, Taipei Computer Association, Taipei. Dr. Shen has worked on numerous central government and has more than 15 years of research experience in ICT-related industry. He's also one of the experts who's able to provide professional analysis and strategic advice service to both smart city and ICT industry development. Also, in a moment, we're going to be joined in by our moderator as well, Rinaldo Lupto, the founder and CEO, Hungry Workhouse Institute of Digital Transformation, Philippines. While Ray is a digital transformation thought and action leader, sought after public speaker, trainer, and an accomplished educator and business columnist. He's engaged with several companies and organizations on digital transformation and innovation, helping them in strategy and execution. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our esteemed panel who's amongst us, and our moderator is just going to be joining us in a minute or a little more with that. So thank you so much. First up to our entire panel, thank you for joining us. So I'd request my entire panel to please put on your videos, and we can all come together on the virtual platform of the World AI Show Manila. Firstly, thank you so much to our incredible panel for joining us.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
So Dominique, we were just having a conversation, and if you'd like to give your input with your expertise to the audience who's present here on the World AI Show, Manila. Could we start with you, Dominic, on that?
Yeah, well, if it's okay, I can share some of the work the Analytics Association of the Philippines is doing in building the data-driven ecosystem in the Philippines. It might be helpful as well for policymakers. Although the AAP has basically has its roots in industry, we've been working actually with the government for the past going on 2 years in filling the gap in terms of skills. And I think one of our banner projects is Project Sparta. And Sparta basically is a collaboration with the Development Academy of the Philippines and the Department of Science and Technology. The idea is you cannot really power a roadmap for analytics and AI adoption if you have a lack of skilled workforce. So a lot of the work we've been doing is really providing via online platforms skills, workshops, and training. At the same time, the two other pillars we're looking at is even if you did have a skilled workforce, there's really a lack of data to use. And I think this is something that all government units in the Philippines, with a few exceptions, struggle with. There's a lot of data actually in government, but a lot of it is not in a usable form. A lot of it needs to be digitized. A lot of it needs to be processed. So part of also the Sparta initiative is to put up to augment the open data capability of the government, starting with some pilot LGUs. And then finally, I think it was good that Dr. Hardoon mentioned the role of research. I think the last leg there is if you have a workforce and you have data available, the last leg is really coming up with really targeted strategic initiatives that go beyond the high level. So you want to go down to really the grassroots, come up with projects that are aligned not just to national government, but LGUs. So everything from process automation to expert systems to implementing a lot of the well-known AI technologies such as natural language processing, computer vision. A lot of these technologies are already mature, but I think in terms of the awareness and the openness of especially local government to adopt these technologies, that's a gap to fill. And also beefing up the ability of local state universities and colleges to produce AI-driven research. I think this is an area that is largely undeveloped in general, with a few exceptions. So I mean, those are the three big verticals. I think it's also good that you had a question about ethics. I think that's going to be an emerging topic that not just government but private sector will be facing in the next few years because it's almost like a hockey stick development. The moment people are aware of how data is used, suddenly data is being abused. So I think it's imperative that as we build the skills base and the database and the research base of the country, we're also insinuating an ethical framework. It's not just about implementing laws. I think the legal part is also an emerging area. We have some laws in place already, like the Cybercrime Law and the Privacy Act, but ethical frameworks go beyond the legal obligations. It's also about basically ensuring that data isn't accidentally or intentionally being used to harm people. And sometimes this is also a question of alignment of organization priorities. And I think we can talk about that throughout the discussion on some of the emerging ethical challenges. Privacy and security are just the tip of the iceberg.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dominique, for giving that start to the panel discussion. Also, I'd like to go to Dr. Shun, just understanding with your perspective, if you could give your opening note to this incredible panel.
Thank you, moderators. I'm Jing I'm Director of Taipei Smart City Office. Actually, my office started 4 years ago, so yeah, we have a couple of experience to work with lots of AI solution, especially in small cities. As you mentioned, actually, in aspect of the small city, actually in our policy, we very, we encourage that. For the small type of project, we encourage vendors to provide all kind of just possible solution to deal with the public problem. The public issues. So in the past, we at least initiate about more than 200 proof of concept projects to deal with all kind of the small city problems by the solutions. And I think at least half of the solution relate to the AI. Yeah, so almost you using AI in every domain everywhere. But actually, yeah, definitely there's a wide range of definition of AI. For some of the case, they're more like to start with the data analysis phase. But some of the case actually they already do lots of machine learning, also some of the decision making by the computers. But it's very interesting because as I mentioned, in the aspect of the small cities, the AI itself is not the major issue we consider about. We more like to aim to to figure out what exactly the AI solution can deal with. So we have a couple case that's very the AI is very helpful, very useful, especially for some of the software AI solutions. We adapt lots of support, the Q&A chatbot. They can very helpful to reduce the human force to answer very regular problem. We also do lots of traffic detection by the AI. Yeah, to understand the traffic flow, to detect the illegal problem and lots of things. But also we figure out lots of AI, especially for the hardware AI. For the robot, for example, it doesn't really work at all. So I think that's a very interesting topic there. We need lots of people to provide all kind of the AI solution to use in the different domain, to the transportation, to in the education, in the environment detection. But actually, the way that the city government, the local authority were very willing to to adapt this solution if it really solved the problem. Yeah, so that's very interesting because we don't concern about how deep is the AI is, man. For some of the solution, they use a very complex algorithm of AI, the learning, but probably it's good technology, but we need to figure out what exactly the technology can solve the problems. And also another issue is the privacy issues. In Taiwan, the face recognition technology is forbidden for using in the public services. So we need to do lots of things to prevent to protect the people's privacy. Yeah. So that also limits some of the AI can be used in the public services. Yeah, so the AI is very interesting for using in the smart cities, but actually we still need lots of discussion and conversation how exactly we can use AI very well and also protect the people and also improve the efficiency and help people to live better. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chen. I would like to go to Mel from after this. Mel, we've heard Dominique and Dr. Jean already on their perspective about the panel discussion. What's going to be your opening note? Mel, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I think from my end, coming from the cybersecurity realm, right? The way that we're seeing AI is actually a core and a very important aspect of cybersecurity. Well, specifically, like in my case, coming from a critical infrastructure organization, right? So the way that we're doing or leveraging AI is really to actually identify certain behavioral patterns by actually developing, or let's say leveraging on some of the algorithms. So for us, the way that we're looking at it is for us to enable an early detection. So it's not only early detection. So we also need to look at, are there actually cases of, let's say, data infiltration or let's say exfiltration. So I think later on we can discuss the rest of the use cases. But there's also some drawback when we speak about AI in the context of cybersecurity, because in our case, we are more of the defenders, right? But of course, there's another part of the pie, which is actually your threat actors. And frankly speaking, these threat actors, they're actually also leveraging on AI to continuously test, continuously improve their malware, because the intention is practically to develop an AI-proof malware. So that's being the case, then it goes through, it's not only like getting a solution that is sophisticated enough, but it should be complemented with the strong governance and risk management controls in the organization.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mel, for your opening note. And I'm going to go straight up to Janelle for her opening note. Now, we've heard from various aspects about AI. Could you as well, Janelle, on the topic? What's your opening note going to be?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Well, for one, what this coronavirus pandemic has shown is that with limited human interaction in cities in lockdown, many businesses ground to a halt, and even partly some of the government operations. But of course, this is something that is not acceptable. And so without sufficient technology and automation in place, we also how high-touch human operations became paralyzed. And as the country recovers, the Philippines recovers, in fact, as the world recovers, it would really require a reimagination of human and business processes to future-proof against the next pandemic. If there's one thing that the coronavirus has taught us, it's that we need to be prepared for the next one. And the Department of Information and Communications Technology, as the primary policy and implementing body of the executive branch of the government in terms of pursuing the national ICT development agenda, is continuously exploring how AI technology may actually be the key to helping the economy get back on its feet. And there are initiatives that are already in place, in collaboration with the other agencies to leverage on AI. And while it is important to look into the long-range impact of AI to humanity, the department is hoping that everyone can take small steps on decisions about AI, and that not, of course, we have also to take into consideration the importance of accountability and transparency in the use of these application and compliance efforts. And taking off from what the previous speaker mentioned about cybersecurity, I agree. It really is, even with this lockdown in place, of course, everyone is online, and cybersecurity has played a real critical role in the operations of government and businesses as well. And in terms of cybersecurity, AI is actually core to some tools, like for example behavioral analytics and the like. So yeah, I believe this would be a very interesting panel. Yeah, I'm excited to get through the other topics. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly head to the first segment of our discussion, which, we're trying to cover in the AI and public sector combining to create smart and high performance governance panel discussion. The first segment is all about the applications of AI for citizen engagement. We're talking about improving operational efficiency and AI strategy for policy and legislation. So if I could have Dominique to first come in and give in his thoughts on this subtopic and let the viewers know on what his thought is going to be. Dominique, over to you.
Okay. I think one of the things to, in a way, demystify is that a lot of conversation with AI usually, and this is from our experience in AAP, never gets past the high level. And the reality is, as I think Dr. Hardoon mentioned in the opening, there are already mature technologies within the realm of artificial intelligence. Actually, if I'll just share a brief slide on this, and I think the other speakers will easily be able to latch on. When you talk about AI, it's very important to be specific on exactly what you are referring to. So depending on the application, it can be many things. Obviously, there's the machine learning component. I think this is where it overlaps with more traditional predictive analytics. Deep learning is a very big part of developing AI systems. But I think one of the, I wouldn't say mistake, but one of the usual traps is many organizations try to reinvent the wheel here and try very hard to develop their own customized models. And I think one of the potential problems to crack is how can we create generalized models that can be applied across industries, that can be applied across companies. In the same way, we don't have to reinvent, your own car when you want to get around. You basically drive cars that are already available. And you mentioned citizen engagement. Let's just use the car as an analogy. You do not need to know how a diesel engine works to drive a diesel car. So there's at least two levels of expertise that we need to develop. One is probably the kind of the citizen level expertise. So you know how to drive, you can get around. But at the same time, you need the kind of the higher level expertise in case the car conks out, someone who can dive into the models and fix them. And I think one of the knee-jerk reactions we're seeing is people want to get into too much of the high level expertise, the deep expertise too much. And obviously that takes time to develop without looking at kind of the citizen level experts. Other areas that are already quite mature include computer vision, and this can be anything from object detection to image recognition. There are already pre-processed models available, openly, like open computer vision. And I think rather than reinventing the wheel, why don't you just build on these existing models and it can speed up the adoption. So I think that would be my first reaction as to this concept of citizen engagement. And maybe one more note about the openness of innovation. I think one of the biggest differences that I've seen in the last maybe 10 years is that nowadays the field of data analytics is dominated primarily by open source software, as opposed to 10 years ago, it's dominated by licensed software. And that has pros and cons. I think the pro is it's relatively easy to get started. There's lots of open source packages. You don't have to pay a single cent to use them. But at the same time, you need a vibrant ecosystem to maintain open source. There's no help desk you can call and figure out what's happening. And risk also of open source is some of these models may not be mature or vetted. So I think it's kind of it's a double-edged blade, right? You want openness and speed of adoption, but you also want to employ stricter governance. I think in general, this is still better compared to the kind of the previous paradigm where you had to rely on big name software vendors and licenses, and it tends to get quite expensive. So the price of the kind of the fear of not having that tech support, I think is fading quickly. But now that it's in a way more democratized, you want to be able to govern it properly. And this means that the discussion on artificial intelligence should go beyond the IT department. It should be across the entire organization. And for example, in government, it goes beyond, let's say, the usual suspects would be DOST, the ICT, and I think what we're seeing now is all departments of the government are looking at analytics. Particularly, let's say the Department of Health is an area of focus because of COVID-19. But really, it goes beyond just the national government. Also looking at local government. So that's kind of my sort of mouthful reaction to that in terms of citizen engagement.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dominic. Dr. Chen, would you like to come on that point as well? And would you like to add on to that, if you could come online on that?
Yes. Okay. I think for the AI to help in to run the city, I think the first most important thing is the scenario. I think that scenario is better, is more important than to engage the citizens, because actually, as our experience, when we try to run some test run for a project about the autonomous bus, actually citizens very exciting in the first moment, but actually everything will return to regular services. So I mean, the more important thing is what exactly we can provide the scenario that can fit their regular needs. That's the most important part. So I think for the application of AI, we're more focusing on how to improve the operational efficiency. That's more important than to engage citizens. And then also in most of the case, for example, we have a case about it's a petition hotline. In Taiwan, in Taipei, we have a petition hotline called the 1999. People, they can dial 1999 and complain anything, and we will collect their complaint and try to deal with the problem. In the past, for every month we at least we'll get more than 1 million of calls about complaint everything. So we trying to use AI to reduce the effort that because in the past we answer the phone by the human force. So AI probably very helpful if we can have some solution to deal with that. But another way, we need to consider about what what the people will think about when they call in. That's answered by the computers. Yeah, and in most of the case, the AI cannot satisfy what they need. So it's very I have to say you need to be very careful about using the application of AI, because in most of the case, you will not engage citizens, but you will piss them off. So what we do is we need to do lots of tests and try to figure out the better scenario to fit the citizen needs. So that's exactly what we do in Taipei. So we will do lots of a very short range concept project to prove that it works, and then the solution also can be accepted by the citizens. And now we will make it become a pilot project. That means a little bit more people, they can join this project, and after the pilot project, they become a regular services. So I need to say you need to very very careful to use lots of AI solution, especially when you face to the people. I have to say this is some the people need temperatures, so it's not always put some robotic to face the people and it will work. Actually, it doesn't work in most of the time. Yeah, so that's I think that's the major policy and major system that we run in Taipei. And also, as I mentioned, it always a trade-off between provide service and collect data from people. If you collect too much data from the people, that means probably you're not able to protect their privacies. So that's another issue. So that's why I always say we need to plan a lot and do lots of scenarios and do lots of tests of poor concept tests before we adopt this, we call it AI solution or any smart solutions. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Chen. Over to you, Mel. Being, the VP and Group CISO officer at Meralco, just wanted to understand that, how is AI driving cybersecurity? What's your take there, Mel?
Okay, so like in our case, I think I would consider our organization used to be one of the traditional organizations in the Philippines. So somewhat would have some semblance in terms of the huge government institutions as well in the country. So like in our case, from a cybersecurity standpoint, so we did actually a risk assessment so that we can gauge where we are right now and where we want to actually elevate the cybersecurity posture of the organization. So part and parcel of the overall roadmap is actually to increase our, or rather improve our mechanism to actually detect. So detection for us is actually within the IT enterprise and also within our OT environment. And of course, part of the OT environment would also be the ecosystem for the smart grid. So having said that, we actually embark on a huge project really. So we actually build our own cyber incident and response center, wherein the core engine really relies on, like a next generation SIEM. So in our case, we veer away with what the traditional SIMs are actually doing. So what is it in the next generation SIM? The next generation SIM would have attacker behavior analytics. So it's not only like detecting are there suspicious user behavior, right? But we also need to go at the other side. So what is it from an attacker standpoint? Other things we also looked into having, let's say, deploying decoy servers through the implementation of actually deception technology. We also implemented real-time detection and then of course containment. So all of this actually relies right in the use of AI, but we do not actually rely on AI alone. I think as how the other speakers earlier also have mentioned, right, AI in our case, and I think in any organization, right, regardless if you are in the utility or let's say you are in the financial sector or whatever, I think it's really more of AI has to be complemented with human intelligence, right? I think at the end of the day, yes, AI can do faster, but what human intelligence can bring forth on the table is also very valuable. So that's how we're taking it off, actually. And of course, we are working hand in hand as well with our technology partners in our organization because we built actually a strong governance structure as well as across the data in our enterprise and the data in our OT, because we want to give back to our customers. We want to make data meaningful to us. We want to improve the way that we service all of the Meralco employees. So that's practically how it's being applied to us, as well as for cybersecurity.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mel, for that very, elaborate answer, and it gave us the entire perspective of it. Now I'm going to go to Jenilyn, being the policy lead of the Cybersecurity Bureau, Department of Information and Communication Technology, Philippines. And I think this question is going to be very apt for you. Is that could you tell us about the AI strategies for policy and legislation? What's your take there?
Yes. In terms of telcos, which of course we is really the backbone of our communications. Telecommunication companies maintain databases of millions of customer records, and they could leverage AI to actually clean, validate, and sort millions of customer data points into better profiles and segments. And this could actually then be used for not just billing, marketing, but profiling their customers and giving better services. And that's why one of the policies that there is in the ICT, the Department of Information and Communications Technology, is the use of cyber hygiene practices for telco companies. So we have this memorandum circular released in 2017, that's MC005, mandating telecommunication companies to employ cyber hygiene practices. And there are other policies that have been issued. There's MC006, this is for government agencies. Again, in terms of employing cybersecurity measures. And we know, as has been previously discussed, that AI plays a critical role in the deployment of these cybersecurity tools. And then you also have, aside from that, right now, in the current example, we see uh, how AI is being used to speed up accurate diagnosis of COVID-19 in hospitals by an example is the evaluation of, computerized tomography scans or CT scans, and sort into early, advanced, and severe stages to prevent hospital overloads, which is an issue right now, of course, not just with the Philippines, but with most countries, with some of the other countries, right? And there's also chatbots, which is a subset of AI that is being used in the Philippines to power the Department of Health channels and triage requests to share accurate information about COVID-19 and prevent as well the spread of fake news. But I would agree, AI is not enough, right? We've seen bad examples of AI as well. And sometimes it's because of a clumsy registration process, which of course is due to us humans. And sometimes there's lack of education among the citizens. So it needs to be balanced, I agree, with human intelligence, and clear policies that is in place so that all the stakeholders can have clarity on how to comply, and how to really leverage on the advantages of AI. And I would just like to mention, in the Philippines, there is the government is working on a national AI roadmap. This includes several agencies. There's of course, the DICT, there's the Department of Trade and Industry, DOST, and we understand that, you will need a workforce for this. So part of this task force is the Commission on Higher Education, the Department of Education as well. And we are hoping that with this move and the setting up of a national framework and infrastructure, we can accelerate AI and digital transformation for the Philippines.
Thank you so much, General, for talking all about, what's happening in Philippines. And now I'm going to just move on to Dominic, being the founding board of trustees member and treasurer, Analytic Association Philippines. Dominic, I want to ask you this one question is, how important is it to consider data ethics when adopting AI technology? Dominic, over to you.
Yeah, data ethics is really, as I mentioned earlier, going to be the emerging challenge as organizations and institutions adopt data and AI. And it's interesting, as Ms. Jenalyn mentioned, a lot of the problems that we're encountering because of not just AI, but data in general, are a reflection of pretty much, poor processes, poor governance in place. And even the areas of discrimination, this is also reflective of social norms. And I think that's a very, very I would think fundamental issue we need to address. What we might end up engineering is just a digitized version of kind of the worst parts of our society. Maybe if I can be more specific, maybe here's another slide that might help. You can also look at data ethics in terms of from a spectrum of issues. So obviously data privacy and security is probably one of the first areas where people will encounter legal and ethical challenges. But as I mentioned earlier, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Even once you've satisfied privacy and security, the other problems start at that point. On the right-hand side of this spectrum, everything from how do you decide who owns data, so the digital ownership and control. Ms. Mel mentioned fighting disinformation. I think that's Ms. Janelyn. That's also another area where it's now very difficult to determine what is bona fide news and what is fake news. It's difficult to determine what is legitimate research and what is kind of concocted research. And people are not equipped to make these distinctions. And I think on the highest level of the kind of the right hand of the spectrum are kind of I would say some of the more long-standing challenges with artificial intelligence, the issue on discrimination, which at the fundamental level is really because of disbalanced data sets. You know, you're not accounting for minorities and small populations. So your facial recognition will discriminate against ethnicities. And I don't think people have started to reflect upon this, but more and more as algorithms get implemented, there will be this concept of data-driven justice or algorithmic liabilities, where it stands really in stark contrast to existing legal frameworks. You know, if you want to argue a criminal case, the concept of reasonable doubt and evidence does not consider algorithms. That's all circumstantial. You need an expert to weigh in and kind of corroborate an algorithm. But the rest of society is already algorithmically driven. So I think that's an area that I think even legal experts need to look at. On the left-hand side of this spectrum is the issue of data quality. You know, if you have bad data, you'll have bad AI. And another term that we want to coin is data poverty, but where sometimes it's even difficult to find the data you need. So how are you going to build effective models? And if I can just summarize these kind of emerging issues, and there could be more. One side is the data, if you don't manage it properly, can hurt you. And then on the left-hand side is if also you don't manage data properly, data is actually generally unreliable. So I hope that helps kind of frame the issue. The solutions are still emerging. As I said, legal frameworks are not sufficient. We really need to come up with maybe a code of conduct for some of these professions. And then there are more than one profession at stake. It's not just data scientists. We need data stewards, we need data architects, data engineers, and they all have their nuances. And they all come from different fields. So you can't expect a data engineer to follow the same code of conduct as a data scientist because they have very different practice areas. And even the previously kind of a siloed domain, which is cybersecurity, information security, is now merging with some of these other professions. That comes with its own kind of code of conduct. I think I mentioned in one, I'll stop sharing this, mentioned in one conference about security. Sometimes it's not the hackers you need to be worried about. It's actually your data analysts, because they're probably going to be the source of your breaches if they're not responsible with the data they're using. And I think that goes back to ethical behavior. So anyway, that's kind of my thought about that.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for sharing the spectrum and also your perspective on the same. I'd like to go now to Dr. Chen, being the CEO, global organization of Smart Cities, Hungry Workhouse, Institute of Digital Transformation, Philippines. There are a couple of topics which are coming, for you. Is first up, will AI eliminate jobs? Will it lead to the advent of new ones? And also, could you touch upon what are the sectors in government that AI will deeply impact? What's your take there?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Actually, I will answer the second one a bit easier because, actually every department, every sectors, in Taipei, we almost do any solution that relate to AI. Yeah. So, the first or the second question is very easy. And any sector you can imagine. And for the first question about the in terms of the job eliminations, actually, in the domain of the government sees, it's very different from the industry. So for the AI solution, if we adapt any AI solution in the government see, actually, I don't think it will replace any job. For the government domain is very interesting. For example, in Taipei, actually, it's very difficult for the local government to extend their human resources. So that means in the most of time, the public servant, they will deal with the loading more than they can handle. So that's exactly what the problem is. So in most of case, AI, try to, what we do, we use AI to helping the public servant to.
Dr. Chin, I've lost you on the audio.
Improve the efficiency. That major thing what we do in China.
Dr. Chin, we're sort of losing you in the audio a little bit. Your audio is...
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Dr. Chin? Okay, we're facing a little audio issue on that. Mel, if I can come to you. Dr. Chin, are you there? Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear you now.
I'm sorry for the,
Yeah, I think it's back.
for the internet problem. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Actually, we have a solution about a virtual fence. I think I was talking about a virtual fence just 1 minute ago. We're using the virtual fence solution to helping the security guard inside of the campus about elementary school. The reason is very simple. We don't have enough money to hire more security guard to patrol the campus all the time. But actually, we do have a lot. In the past, we do have lots of campus security problems. Yeah, some people invent into the campus. So what we do is we using a very, very nice AI camera. He can detect the people. I mean, he can detect the people behavior. He can recognize that's the people, not the dog, not the cat, and he can notice the security guard to go to the fence if some people trying to invent to the campus in a appropriate way. So what I want to say is, actually, for the AI solution, most of the case, what we do is we helping the people. Helping the public servant to provide a service better and be able to provide more. And I know some of the jobs that probably they can could be replaced by the AI. Yeah, that's for sure. But they also will create new jobs. For example, we do a couple times of the autonomous bus test in Taipei. For the people, for everyone they always concerned about the AI driver will replace the physical driver. But two is, yes, it will replace the people driver, but actually we need another people to to stay in the bus to watch out everything and also watch out for the passengers. Yeah, that's how exactly the government will do in a lot of different fields. So as you can see, in the metro system is very mature for for the autonomous trains and providing the metro system, but we still need one driver to watch everything. And also we need lots of AI engineers to provide better AI solutions. So in another side, actually, we reduce the loading of the drivers, so it can take care more things that that more than the past, and that means it will make the people more safe. That's important. That's very important. And we also create new jobs for the engineers. They can do lots of new technology to helping that make the people living better. So my point is, I don't think, especially in the government domain, I don't see AI will replace anyone. And if it do, actually it will create more jobs. So don't worry, just try anything you can. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chain, for, because that sort of question always comes in every panel discussion, and you so rightly answered that. Now, Mel and General, we're really falling in short of time, but I would want the
Mm-hmm.
two ladies to come on the panel. Mel, if you could
Okay.
just, we could have a closing remark from you on the entire panel discussion with your expertise in play. Could you do that, please? Mel, over to you.
Okay. Well, I think as a closing note, no, AI has also played a big influence, right, in the context of smart devices, right, which we can actually find in our offices, in our homes, and that actually, and that being the case, there should be a collaborative effort. So it's not only user organizations or vendors. I believe that our regulators would also come into play to actually put forward, right, a robust framework, something that a framework that can elicit cyber resilience in the context of IoT, because in IoT there are actually a lot of threats, and one would be your denial of service. Other common threats revolving around IoT is actually weak credentials that can bring you forward to the next one, which is actually brute force. And of course, I think almost all of us know that when we talk about your firmware upgrade, it's always outdated. So I think it's basically saying that it's not only about investing, a sophisticated cybersecurity tool, right? But it's actually building an ecosystem. So in that ecosystem, you have vendors or solution providers, right, or manufacturers of these cybersecurity platforms who would actually continuously improve on the manner that they're putting in sophisticated intelligent algorithms. There should also be in-depth cybersecurity education and awareness, right, across pillars, and also a support coming from the government. So it's good that Jen is also here, right? We're looking at a framework that will actually tie all of this. So that being said, the road should be leading to a strong cyber posture, regardless which industry you should be in. I think that should be it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mel. A road leading to a strong cybersecurity. Now, I'm, going to get a closing note quickly from Jenilyn. Jenilyn, in just interest of time, we'd like to hear your closing remarks on the panel. Over to you.
Yeah, just real quick, just taking off from Miss Mel's remarks, and just leveraging on the roadmap. And as I mentioned earlier, the Philippine government is crafting an AI roadmap to improve productivity and economic growth in the country. And just for the information of everyone, just for everyone to know who are the agencies that's leading this. It's the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Science and Technology, the DICT, Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, and of course the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA. And this is in collaboration. Of course, the government cannot do it alone, right? We need, this is in collaboration with academicians, with government officials, and industry stakeholders. Consultations is being conducted, and the report, the consultation with these stakeholders provides recommendations on policies and programs, including AI trainings, AI laboratories, and this roadmap would serve as a definite step to achieve the goal of the country to become, to leverage on AI. And since I'm from the Cybersecurity Bureau of the ICT, yes, towards a goal of cyber resiliency in the country, which of course is needed to ensure the continuous operation of our 12 critical infrastructures in the country. And so with the help of all the stakeholders, with strong collaboration, it is our hope that we can actually leverage on AI and help each other towards a cyber resilient Philippines. Thank you, everyone.
So, to a cyber resilient Philippines, ladies and gentlemen, with this, we wrap up the entire panel. Thank you so much to our incredible panelists for joining us at the World AI Show, Manila. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.